Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to MyPixel. It's so awesome to have you here again today. Today we're going to be building upon our work last time, and we're going to make our character jump, give our game some gravity, and have our player properly collide with the walls and floors. So let's get right to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create some walls and floors. So for that, let's go into our stage 1 scene. Okay. And then what we're going to need is, let's start off by adding a sprite. Let's add our sprite. Let's rename our sprite. Let's call it ground 00. That sounds good. And then we will add a static body 2D. Right, without going too much into it, a static body 2D is just a body that is meant to not move, perfect for things like ground tiles and wall tiles. So that's what we're using. Right? And to the static body 2D, right, we have this warning here. It says consider adding collision shape 2D. That's exactly what we're going to do. So let's add a collision shape 2D to this. Collision shape 2D right here. Okay. Now we need a sprite so that we can see what we're working with here. So let's just go into our sprites. Environment, I have just a single tile pulled out just to make things easy for today. Just click and drag and drop it in texture so we can see it there. Great. And then we'll go to our collision shape. Right? The collision shape is what's gonna give us our collision box or hitbox. So for that, right, collision shape, we clicked on it. Go into shape here where it says null. Gonna click, and for now, or for this time, we're gonna select rectangle shape 2D. You'll see this box pop up. Okay, now to resize this box, we can do it by the numbers here. If we click on this rectangle shape here, there's extents, right? So these are extents coming from the middle, right? Right now it says it's going 10 in the X and 10 in the Y, right? So we could change this. We know our box is 16 by 16, this tile, so our extents would be half of that. So it would be 8 and 8, right? And if we hit enter, we can see, right, it snaps to the size of the box. Right? If you don't want to do it by the numbers, right, you don't know exactly what your numbers are, you can just, these nodes on the inside, don't use the outside ones because those will scale the box and you'll end up with bugs and things won't work as you want them to. So always use these inside nodes here. But you can click and drag these nodes out and back in, right, to whatever size that you need. So let's just set that there. All right, and our first ground tile is good to go. Okay, and then after that, right, let's go ahead and move these ground tiles. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. What do we want to do? We want to go back to the ground sprite. Click on this so that the children objects are not selectable, so that we can always click and drag this thing as a whole. So let's do that. And then let's just start to begin to tile our stage. Now, before I go on, I know that there's better ways to do this, but just for the sake of today's lesson, we're doing things the way easy to understand, and this is not the meat and potatoes of the lesson here, right? We're really trying to do collisions, gravity, and jumping. So let's just get this tiling thing out of the way as easy as possible. So we have our tile. And let's minimize this here. And then we're going to duplicate our tile to create more. You can do that by either holding this and doing a Control D on your keyboard will create you a new tile. Or what you can do is you can right click on your object here and then duplicate. Okay? Whatever you want to do, whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm just going to Control D and I'm going to create a bunch of these real quick. If you just stand by with me. I need to create something that looks like walls and floors. Let's see how fast I can do this. How many is enough? Maybe that's enough here. And let's just create something else that looks like a wall here. And maybe we can jump on it, things like that. Okay, so now we have our floor tiles done. Let's just save all scenes, save our work. Okay, now we need a collision shape added to our player. We never added a collision shape to our player last time because we didn't need one. But for our player to collide properly with everything else, it needs a collision shape. So let's go to our player scene. If you don't have it open and it's closed like this, just go back to your resource tree, find your player scene, this player.tscn, double click that, it'll open up your player scene, and then you can go into this side over here, and then we're going to add a collision shape 2D. Okay. To the collision shape 2D, we need to make sure we add a shape to it. We're going to add a rectangle shape. And just really quickly, we don't have to be completely super accurate with this. All right, let's just get something that sort of works. Right, maybe something like that. And then, right, so this shape is using the center as the origin, and this sprite isn't exactly centered. So we're just going to need to take this collision shape and bring it down a couple of notches here. Actually, sorry, that's moving the whole thing. If you select collision shape, go in here and you can just press the down arrow, it'll move it. Or you can go into your shape here. Actually, sorry, not that. You can go into the transform. If I want to move it down, I can just move it down by however many, right? 10, right? That's way off. We should actually just do it by 1. Right? Just 1 here. Okay. And then we'll expand our box just to cover his head and toes, crown and toes. Okay. There we go. Now he's got a collision shape. Now he's ready to collide with the walls and floors. Okay, so now that we have our environment and all our collision objects and shapes set up, let's go back into our player script. Okay, now what we want to do here is we want to do a little bit of cleanup, right? Last time we just kind of threw these numbers in here just for something that works, but let's make things a little bit easier for everyone to read and understand. Even yourself, maybe. Sometimes you put down your game or your code for a while, you come back and you wonder, what does 30 mean anyway, right? So let's assign some values and variables so that yeah, we can track better what these numbers mean. So we're going to create constants, right? So to create constants, keyword const, right? We're going to call this constant speed, and we're going to make speed equal to 30. Right? So right here where we say we have up, down, left, right, this was our speed. We're moving by 30 pixels per second. So instead of using this now, what we're able to do is we're able to replace this 30 down here with our new constant, speed. So we'll just copy that and we'll paste it. Paste, 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 right? So now when you look back at your code and you can see, well, I'm moving by speed. What is speed? Well, speed is this 30 pixels. And let's say you want to make your character move faster, right? Before you would have had to change every instance of 30 to, let's say, 40. 40, make it 40 here, here, and here. Now all you have to do is go up here, change this to 40. Easy, right? But we had 30. In fact, I think I had some numbers that might have worked a little bit better for us. We're going to change that to 60. Okay? Now, we're also going to create some other constants, right? We're going to implement gravity sooner or later. So we're going to create a constant for gravity. Okay, we're going to create, set that equal to 10. Now these numbers like gravity equals 10, this is just what works for you. I've already built this in advance, so I know kind of what I'm looking for, but as you can always feel free to adjust these to your liking. And we're going to create a constant called jump power, and this is going to equal negative 250. It's equal to a negative because when he jumps and he moves up, that's actually negative on the y-axis in Godot. So we just set it to negative here. Okay, so let's start with that for now. Actually, well, let's just get this out of the way. We're also going to create one called floor, and this is going to be equal to a vector2 value of 0 and negative 1. Okay, we're going to get into this. I'll explain this in a little bit once we get to it. Okay, but there are constants. All right, we have our velocity variable. Okay, so just real quick, constants are values which, once they are set, you're unable to set them again in the script. If you remember, we were working with velocity. Velocity is right here, a vector2 of 0 and 0, and we change that value as we do things in our script down here, right? So if you have a variable, its value can be changed. If you have a constant, once you set the value once, it cannot be changed again. So that's the difference between a constant and a variable. Right, great for things like gravity, right? You probably never want to change the value of gravity in your game, so you set it once and you forget it. Okay. What else are we trying to do here? Okay, so we're going to jump up and we're going to jump up. Right? We don't need speed, we want our jump power now. So we change this to jump power. And then we were moving down with the down arrow before, right? So we don't need that. And we're not going to move down with the down arrow. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, and right, we don't need to set our y velocity to 0 anymore either. So we'll get rid of that, right? So basically, if we want to jump, then just jump. Okay. We're going to implement our gravity. So we're going to say that every frame, right, this physics process is what happens every frame by the default is 60 frames per second. So every frame we want velocity dot y, right, going up and down, to be equal. Okay, well, let's do this. Velocity dot y equals velocity dot y plus gravity. Right? So that means every frame it's going to add 10 to our velocity. Right? A shorter way to write this is actually like this. I'll show you. So it's if I can get this out here, velocity dot y plus equals gravity. Okay? So this right here is exactly equivalent to this. Right? It's just a shorter way to write it. Those of you familiar with scripting and programming in other languages probably know about this, but for those who don't, now you know. So we're just going to leave it like this because that's shorter, more concise. So let's get rid of this. Okay. So there's our gravity. All right, and one more thing before we go ahead and try and test out our game is we need to adjust this move and slide function that we have over here. Now there's a whole bunch of bugs or little oddities that you might notice if you don't change this the way that we're about to. But just to try and give you a better idea, here are a couple of them. Okay, so in this right here, this is a clip of just some normal gameplay. Right, exactly how you would expect it. Right, he jumps around, falls off ledges. Gravity seems to work fine. He jumps, he hits his head, he bounces down. Pretty much exactly how you would expect him to. Right? Again, falls off ledges. Right, and that's all good. But if you fail to make this change that we're about to make, you could end up with something more like this. So at first you kind of look okay, you're running around, jumping off, then he walks off this ledge here. See how he snapped to the ground like that? That's way too fast. And now he's jumping, he's hitting his head, and he's floating. Right? It's just, that's not how you would expect things to work, and that's probably not how you want them to look. So unless that's what you're going for, we're going to need to change this move and slide function. So let's go ahead and do that. So to change the move and slide function, what we're going to do is we're going to say velocity equals move and slide velocity. And so basically you're saying move and slide velocity, move and slide will return a value after it has performed all its collisions and everything like that. So, and then it assigns it back to your velocity variable so that when you loop through this physics process again, it uses that as a starting point. Okay. The one other thing we're going to do here is we're going to set this next parameter here. It says this floor normal. Now this is what is going to tell Godot, or the it's basically how you define what is a floor, what is a wall, what is a ceiling, or something like that. So the floor normal, right, is just going to be what we set our floor or our floor constant to here. So it's a vector 2 of 0 and -1. Right. 0 and -1, if you take a box, basically that's the top of the box, right? So when you have your floor, let's go look at floor. This top of these tiles is 0, -1. The bottom of these tiles would be 0 and +1, right? But in any case, yes, 0, -1 is what we're looking for here, and that's what we've put in here, right? Through our floor constant that we assigned up here. Okay. Now that we have that going, let's just save and let's run our game. Right? We can jump. We land on the floor. Right? We don't have any animations yet, right? But we can move back and forth. Right? Things seem pretty good, right? Except this. And where'd our character go? If I hold up, he flies off the screen, right? I can jump as many times as I want to, right? It's actually pretty cool, right? If that's what you're going for. But you probably don't want your character to be able to jump forever, right? If that's what you're going for, then great, but most of us probably aren't looking for that. So because of that, we're going to need to fix this. Okay, so to fix this, we're going to need to be able to tell when we're on the floor and when we're in the air. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, and let's just call it on ground, and we'll set it off, or we'll start it off equal to false. Okay. We'll go down here. Okay, so move and slide, right, goes hand in hand with another function called isOnFloor. Right, so what isOnFloor does is, probably as you can guess, is it tells you if you're on the floor. For that to work, we needed to set this floor normal here, right, which we've done already. So since we've done that, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a if isOnFloor. Then we're going to set our on ground variable equal to true. Then if we're not on the floor, right, else on ground is going to be equal to false, right? Pretty easy. Makes sense. Okay. Then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make it so that when we press up, it doesn't work unless on ground is true. So let's go into here, right? Our code for our jumping, right? Action press UI up. This whole setting the jump power is we're gonna put that whole thing in an if statement. So let's do an if on ground is equal to true, make sure you indent this so that it knows it's inside the if block here. So if on ground is equal to true, then we want to set our jump power, so basically jump, and then we want to, because we jumped, we're no longer on the ground, right? So we're going to want to set our on ground variable, right? On ground equals false. Okay. You might have noticed there's like a double equals and just a single equals. The single equals is basically when you're assigning a value to some sort of variable. The double equals is what, when you're trying to check a condition, you know, does 1 equal 1? Does 2 equal 2? Right? This is, or, you know, does, that doesn't quite make sense. Does 2 plus 2 equal 4? Right? We want to check if it does, right? Does on ground actually, is it equivalent to true? Right? And that's when you use a double equals. Right? The single equals is, I think they call it like an assignment operator or something like that. But yeah, basically you use a single equals if you're trying to assign a value to something else. Double equals is when you're trying to check if something is equal, right? When you're trying to check the condition. All right, that was a mouthful. But I think we have what we need here. So let's go ahead and save. And then let's go ahead and run our game. And let's see if we can still jump forever. And we can jump. And look at that. You're going to have to take my word for it. You can't see I'm pressing the keys on the keyboard. Right? But we can't double jump anymore. Right? We'll jump, and our jump doesn't work again until we hit the ground. Right? In fact, I'm just holding down the key right now. He's only jumping again when he hits the ground. Right? And you know, there you have it, right? So we have our collisions working, right? He collides with the walls and the floors just fine, right? We can jump, right? We can do an infinite jump, right? Because that, you probably don't want that. And our gravity is working exactly how you expect, right? I think we did a pretty good job today. So today we took one more step toward making our platform game. Making games is all about breaking down the big picture of, I want to make this awesome game with this and that and this and that. Right? You take the this and that, you break that down into smaller pieces that you can then knock out one at a time. Right? And that's exactly what we're doing. So I'd like to thank you all for showing up to the party today. It was a lot of fun. If you liked today's video, please give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, please let me know how you're doing on your project and maybe leave me a line in the comments. Once again, I'm going to make today's tutorial project folder, right, which includes the sprite resources and everything we worked on today. That's going to be available for download on my Patreon page. So if by chance you want to check that out, the link will be in the description. And with that, we're all good. So thanks again to everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one real soon. Take it easy.